Well, Happy New Year, guys. Welcome back to another Space Goat podcast. Our last podcast we recorded just before Christmas and we were just out of lockdown and now we're back in again. So rather than talk about all the negatives of the negatives of the the negatives of the podcast, the negatives of lockdown, we thought it would be quite nice to talk about the positives of lockdown and, all the good things that come from it. Who wants to start?
Sam? Anything positive?
Is there any positives? No, I'd definitely say there is. Just from my end, I've sort of, my file keeping, like, if we're talking about job-wise, that is, my file keeping, and sort of like, the way I work has improved a lot because I'm sort of forced to quite often monitor my storage and be very aware that anything I make has to be sent to someone who I can't talk them through it. So it's sort of like kept my like house cleaning and like housekeeping quite well inside my projects and everything. So that's a bonus. But if we talk about real life, I'm eating a lot more food because there's nothing else to do. But yeah, I've tried a lot of foods. That's always a bonus. What about you guys?
Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I've been eating a lot as well, but, cooking's always fun. Everyone says that, like, oh, I want to cook and learn to cook during lockdown, but that just means you got to do more washing up.
So I think the biggest benefit I've had is my studio knowledge. Most of the time when I've sort of worked with studio setups, it's been most of the stuff has already been there or just kind of like being available, especially when it comes to things like backdrops and controlled lighting area, and that's always been a nice sort of positive. But with lockdown and doing a lot more work from home, I've had to set up a studio at home, and it's been a really big learning curve, like sort of figuring out how to block out light from the window and make sure the lighting's perfect and utilizing plugs and everything properly. And yeah, it's just and also using a smaller space. Usually with a studio you get a really large area to work in, whereas if you're operating in your spare bedroom or your lounge with a studio, you've got to figure out what can I get away with where. And the other thing is, obviously, you don't want to be taking things down and setting them up every other day, so it's about making sure that your rig and your studio setup can be as manageable as possible for the room that you have. And I think it's only taken me about a year to master it, but it's no, I'm pretty happy now with the results that I'm getting, and to be honest, it's quite nice actually knowing that I can get the same results pretty much out of my spare bedroom that I would be if I was booking a full-on studio. So I think that's definitely a positive, especially looking towards the future with saving money in especially the clients' money, taking money out of the budget to book studios. And yeah, I think that's definitely a good thing to have come out of it.
Yeah, kind of me too, I suppose. I'm kind of used to having to use like no space for a studio. So actually, I've actually kind of got a lot more space than I'm used to in my tiny office, strangely enough. But I've been enjoying it too, like learning to organise everything and like getting your own stuff together in your own house. Yeah, pretty much.
So Sam, do you want to take us a little bit more in depth about, because obviously a lot of the work you were doing was from home anyway before lockdown and before all of this, so has I think one of the positives hopefully that's come out of this is that your workload for working from home has actually increased, I would say.
No, I'd say it's definitely increased because I guess a lot of people don't have home setups, and a lot of editors obviously will have computers at home, but not everyone's got like a setup that can handle like 4K, B-RAW, and sort of all these bigger files. And so I have found I've had a lot more work in because I've sort of got a setup where I usually work from home anyway, which is quite nice, but obviously it isn't good because other people are losing work at the same time, so it's sort of like a double-edged blade in that sense. But No, it has been quite nice getting other work, and I think one of the main positives is where obviously I worked from home before, now everyone else is working from home. Everyone's sort of increased their like communications. Everyone's got better mics. They've learned how to like properly share files because obviously you're not there in person to sort of like talk them through what you sent. So it's actually made my work life quite a lot easier because it's a lot of people have got more organised and like cleaner audio, and I've found like especially with stuff I receive from graphic designers, like everything's a lot more laid out and clear. Because before the amount of files I received with unlinked things in and stuff that they would literally have to come to me and talk me through it because they just haven't labelled, organised or done anything to sort of like pass it along. And now they're making sure it's all clean and done, and like it's just there's quite a few positives in my space at the moment for sort of all these sorts of things. What about you, Max? Have you found in your sort of graphic design world and stuff that you've become more organised during lockdown?
I'd love to tell you, yeah. A little bit, yeah. I think, especially like you said, when you're having to like send files over to people, it has to be really. Otherwise, it's just wasting time. So it doesn't take any extra time to like label your layers in Photoshop, for example. So yeah, I've been doing that a lot more and making sure my files are organised, so it's less of a faff to find things and send them to people and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know Josh is the king of not naming his video files. Have you got any?
No, I think I've definitely gotten better this year, mostly because where I've had to, upload stuff to like central servers for companies and stuff like that. Most of the time, like beforehand, it would just be a case of sending people, final videos with a nice title on them, or version 34 or whatever it is. But one of the things that's definitely changed is having to be a bit more proactive about, keeping files organised, because I've got a lot of eggs in different baskets, so I need to have that organisation. Otherwise, I'm just going to totally lose track of things, and then you end up in a situation where you lose something, and that's when the ball drops, really. So definitely being a bit better with that. But yeah, I think it's the whole idea of this podcast and talking about the positives. It is difficult, and I think none of us are going to turn around and say that the last year has been all positives, because it hasn't. It's been a real struggle. I know, there's projects that I'm working on at the moment that have just been pushed for the last 7 months because either international travel's been impossible or getting contributors has been difficult because people aren't allowed to travel, and it's really put a stopper on creativity. But one positive thing that I think is worth mentioning is that I, for one, cannot wait until we get the other end of this and we see all of those creative ideas that have been pushed or developed during lockdown or, written. I can't wait to see those made and put out in the coming years, because a lot of one thing that I've seen trending a lot online recently is that after every great plague or pandemic or natural disaster, there's always been sort of a renaissance for the arts, and for us in a creative sector, that's actually quite an exciting thing to look forward to, because if you've been if your business has been closed, or your theatre's been closed, or your cinema's been closed for the last year and a half, I think anyone is going to then turn around and say, well, the first thing I'm going to do is, actively market myself and create content. So for us as content creators, that's an exciting prospect to look forward to. It's just a case of surviving until then, and not following Big Boris's advice and working at Sainsbury's or Tesco. Not that working at Sainsbury's and Tesco is bad. It's just not what we trained for.
He did put a bit of a stop on the creative sector, telling us to get different jobs. Which, while it does make sense, is sort of against everyone's willpower, because you're like, no, I am an editor, or I bought like £10,000 worth of camera equipment. Like,
Yeah, it kind of flushes that degree down the toilet a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. I have enjoyed the so like looking at saying the things where everyone's waiting for like all their creative ideas to end. I have enjoyed seeing what people have been able to make during lockdown, like all the little videos. And
some of it's been
it's quite
really
interesting
good.
seeing.
There was
The
one that
music's
I saw.
been good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the music has been good.
The one that I saw that was really cool was a lot of people have been making like food videos, because one of the things that pretty much everyone's been doing is, like Max and Sam very adequately put forward at the beginning of the episode, is eating. So I think there's been a lot more cooking at home. And yeah, I've seen quite a few good food videos. There was one called like Pizza Quarantina, and it was like a little stop motion animation of someone, like all the ingredients of a pizza making themselves into a pizza, and like someone just did it in their kitchen. Someone like us who just had the equipment lying around and thought, I'm going to do this. And you see those videos and you get really annoyed because you think, God, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I make it? But no, just seeing creativity like that from people is always quite inspiring.
Yeah, there's so many funny things about as well, where people are locked in and they've got cabin fever and they're like, I've got to make something.
Yeah.
They're always quite fun to watch. I saw one the other day where this person was basically going around their kitchen and they were just getting into things. They were just like basically just animating themselves into like fitting into a jar and then jumping out of that and going into like the frying pan and pretending to be different things.
Yeah.
Really silly, but it just shows that people still want to make stuff even when they can't.
I think the biggest thing is the quality of memes. The quality of memes has definitely gone up.
Oh yeah, because all the full-time editors that like
Oh,
graphic designers are just like, well, I've got nothing to do, I might as well make people laugh.
Yeah, and it's not as though there hasn't been any news to comment on.
Yeah. Well, it's just the news is too ridiculous to parody, so you gotta.
Well, that's
you
the
gotta
thing.
make
Like,
something even more ridiculous.
with everything that happened over in America recently.
South Park's going out of business.
Yeah. With everything that happened over in America, I think it was within 5 minutes of it being announced on the news, I looked at Facebook and it was just filled with memes already.
Yeah.
It was, almost ridiculous that people are that quick on it.
I saw quite a good one. It was every previous president's like face photoshopped onto everyone else's face in the White House.
Oh God!
It was like it was literally up in 10 minutes. It looked pristine. I was amazed.
Yeah, almost like they knew.
I know. It's
conspiracy.
Planned. They had the photo before it was even took.
All right, guys. So I think that's a nice place to come to an end. We've talked about, some of the positives of the lockdown, and yeah, I think the biggest thing now is just looking to the future and finding what we can now in terms of work and looking forward to what's happening in the future.
And to keep eating.
And to keep eating. For anyone who wants to get in contact with us about anything we've discussed in the podcast or is looking to start a project, you can just drop us an email on hello@spacegoat.media. We've recently done a nice upgrade to our website, so if you want to go check that out at spacegoat.media, that's you're more than welcome to do so. Follow us on Instagram, like, share and follow, love all that. And yeah, we'll catch you guys soon. All right, thanks guys.
Thanks guys.